Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of UnDisruptEd. Adam rocking the hat there. We got the beret going.
Yes,
He's
yes.
feeling it.
Wait.
It's not a raspberry beret, but it's still looking pretty proper for those of you watching online. All right, opening debate is this. So it's near summertime. We're in this mode as tech directors and tech leaders. Like, what do we do? Do we pick up? When I was at Eanes, we always wondered, like, do we actually pick up all the devices from kids, or is it better just to let them keep them over the summer? And then how do we do that? What's like a process? You know, because our district was pretty tight. I know your district, you're like a whole county. So what's your thoughts on that? Devices, pick them up, leave them.
What I really would love to do is not pick them up.
Yeah.
But the dilemma is we haven't seen our devices since February in some cases, with our kids that initially went home when the pandemic started, February of last year.
Yeah.
And they're here, and we know in a lot of cases the devices are cracked screens or hinges or whatever the case may be, and people haven't brought them because it's still working. I can still turn it on, I can still do stuff, so I haven't brought it in yet. And so this case, it'll let us get all of our devices in, figure out what's broken, what needs to be repaired, and even in some cases, refresh those devices with new devices. So you go ahead and take those out of inventory and give the kids something new, but it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a nightmare because we have in my district probably about, I don't know, a little over a third of our kids haven't been back yet. So we have all these virtual kids that we have to try to figure out how that works. So that's going to be fun.
And with that, I'm curious to hear what our special guest has to say about this. So let me welcome in Kyle Pace. Kyle Pace is the Director of Technology at Lee Summit Schools up in Kansas City, Missouri, or Missouri. You can follow him on Twitter at Kyle Pace. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this? The whole, like, do we pick them up? Do we pick up all the devices? Do we let them keep them? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Hey, guys. First of all, thanks for having me on.
Sure.
Really appreciate it, getting to join you two and having some chat. And so this is an interesting debate. And so my previous district, where I was Director of Technology, we implemented while I was there, letting kids keep them home over the summer. Now, that's a little bit easier to do in a smaller district, but because we're talking, that was a district of about 4,300 kids. So smaller district for sure, easier to do. But we're also in my current district, that's about 18,000 kids. We're letting them keep them over the summer this summer, especially for those kids that are already needing them for. We have, kids taking summer school. We are going to have an in-seat summer school for both elementary and secondary, and then we're going to have online versions of summer school for both elementary and secondary. So no matter whether it's in person or online, those kids are going to need a device during that time. And so we're talking about a relatively, if you think about it, our summer school goes until July 7th. So we're really talking about a month and a half, close to 2 months that we're asking, that they're going to have that device at home before they're back to us anyway.
Yeah. And you also have the flexibility, and this is one of those things with some of our listeners also have to deal with, depending on the transient nature of your population, also has a lot to do with what your options are, because if your kids you have a high transient rate, you can't let those devices go out through the summer, because those kids may be who knows where based on the transient nature of their household. So you have to get those things back versus a more I hate to say stable. What's the word I'm looking for here? Non-transient,
I guess.
Community, where those kids are normally in your system through K-12. And so it makes a lot of sense for them to keep them as we deal with summer realignment, learning realignment, and stuff like that that's happening.
And the other way, I mean, kind of like what you said, Adam, I think no matter what, you're going to still have devices get broken. You're going to have devices get potentially lost. And hopefully, the front loading that we always do before the summer with parents, helps mitigate some of that. But if you think about it, and if one of our kids is going to be on a device a lot this summer, I would, I think it's pretty good bet that most parents would prefer that it be on a district device that's going to stay filtered, and they know for sure their kids are going to stay protected while on it. But an interesting factor that I've had come up a few times is, and we can get into this as much or as little as you guys want, but the whole, the whole filtering and the monitoring software, you know, that we all have on our devices. That's an interesting part of the debate there too, is if if those alerts or something fire during the summer, let's just say it's while principals are off, then you just have to think about those kinds of things. So I had to think about those things when we had kids keep Chromebooks over the summer, because essentially for that month that principals were off on summer break, we don't want to put, so we have to shift to some other district leaders of who are going to get some of those more pressing alerts maybe that might come up for some kids while they have them over the summer.
It adds a whole nother layer of complexity to an already full plate for teachers and administrators. This happened to us over the summer. It wasn't even a school district device. We had some kids go to a party and teenagers, and they were taking pictures and posting them on Instagram. And I'll be darned if we didn't get a call, principal. Then they called me, and I'm like, it's summer. And they're like, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, well, did they use our devices? No, they didn't. No, but you need to do something. I was like, at some point,
right.
You can't just keep piling on schools to be the counselor, the tech, support, and we're feeding kids, and now we're giving them insurance. I mean, at some point, somebody has to.
Privacy. At some point, it's my life outside of the K-12 space. You can't tell me what to do. We should be concerned about our students at all times, so I don't want it to be taken out of context. But at what point is it invasion of their own personal privacy outside of the school day?
Yeah.
So fun things.
Fun stuff. Good times.
So Kyle, summer is coming.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun.
And with that, normally summer is not the laid back time for technology folks. There's always gearing up for the next school year in between, them waxing and painting buildings and reconnecting computer labs and getting in, whatever devices. Normally it's a smaller refresh here and there, but with all the money that we may be talking about or things you've already purchased, what does your summer look like? Because I know you also did some creative things throughout the school year with repairs that I was able to pick your brain on. So what is that going to look like with some students still keeping their devices, with whatever setup you're doing for your next school year? What does Summer and Lee Summit look like, and how the heck are you going to make it work?
Yeah. Fortunately, we, of course, I can't, talk about it without talking about the amazing team of folks that we have here, which is definitely, a big advantage of being in a larger district, is that you have a technology department that can provide the same level of support all throughout the summer as well. A big thing that's going to happen for us this summer in terms of devices, we're actually meeting here later this week, as a matter of fact, to talk about the future of the teacher device here in Lee Summit. And so that's really what I'm excited, because despite all the craziness that this year has brought, that we're still thinking forward, and we're still doing those things to think forward like that, thinking about what the future of the teacher device is going to be. So we surveyed our teachers, back at the beginning of the semester, and asked for their input on what the next teacher device should look like. I would show you my laptop if I could, if it wasn't plugged into my docking station, and I know I could get it up. But we've always had these pretty significantly sized laptops here in the district, and you could probably, I've heard some creative nicknames for some of, related to how big these and kind of clunky these laptops are.
Big brick,
What's that?
It's like a big brick, just
brick, boat anchor, something
weighing me down. Yes.
Right. And it's just not, and they've been great devices, but it's been the same kind of device, forever in the district, essentially. And so we wanted teachers to give us feedback, like, what do you want this next teacher device to look like? And the two, our kids' Chromebooks have been 2-in-1 touchscreen Chromebooks for quite a while, and teachers have never had a device that really mimics that or comes close to mimicking that. So they want something that's kind of a 2-in-1 device, that has a touch screen, but they really also mobility was a big component as well. teachers being able to easily walk around the room with the device, or be mobile, be very mobile with it more
Okay,
than ever.
and that's something when you look at the teacher devices, the way the teacher has used their computer has changed within the last 12 months. You know,
Right.
forget the last 5 years or whenever the initial refresh on the
Yeah.
teacher device has been done,
Yeah.
how they're utilizing, and even the chipset in those devices have changed, because now you're talking about, I may have to run my interactive panel, I may have to run a Zoom thing, I may have a document camera, and I'm also doing other things. So
Screen
when you can maybe
recording.
get
Yeah.
by with an i3, you may have to bump it up, get an i7 on there, because
Yep.
the RAM and everything else you need, because it's a more beefier product that their teachers are trying to utilize now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I feel the limits of that on the laptop that I have. Just, I mean, you guys know how big of a memory hog Chrome is, and how, if you
Oh
have
yeah.
about, if you have the level, like I have major TMT, too many tabs. Um,
It's an
Admitting it
affliction.
is the first step. Admitting your issue is the first step.
Yes, yes. No, I know my issue. I own it. Yes. Um, but yeah, so uh, in terms of device refresh this summer, that's going to be a big one for us, because in a perfect world, like later this week, we've put together a teacher device team. We're going to actually get to come together for an in-person meeting at the end of this week, as a matter of fact, and this is where the vendors are going to come in and give their presentations on, like, here's why our computer's the best, and here's all the things that it'll afford you as instructionally as a teacher, and then in a perfect world, that recommendation is going to go to our board, and then that looks like, hopefully in July, we're creating opportunities, and that's where our instructional technology specialists who are on my team will create opportunities for teachers to come in and learn about their new device and pick up their new device, and then take it back home with them, and they've got it at home with them for a solid month before school starts, to help them get acclimated to it. So barring any barges that get stuck in the Suez Canal or pandemic related delays,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll be able to get those devices refreshed. And it's good. We're gonna do all teachers all at once. So that's another change for us as well, is having this school get their new laptop this year, and this school get their new laptop this year. We're just gonna get everybody on the same rotation, is what we're shooting for.
Well, and with funding being what it is, I mean, it's if ever there was a time in our lives as ed techs that this is it. We've got a boatload of funds coming our way from the
Yep.
feds, and I don't know what you're hearing or what conversations you've already had, Kyle, in your district about this, but when all these funds come and they're supposed to make their way to local school districts, for lots of things, learning loss, technology, connectivity, all that stuff. What is your thought? Like, what is the best way? You mentioned doing the teacher kind of across the board leveling of the playing field. What are your thoughts on that funding? What's the best use of those funds for school districts in your area?
In my area also, again, just had some very recent conversations about this, is just those instructional technology resources. We did just continuing to look. I feel like we just have so many pockets I see all these pockets, and let's just use Nearpod as an example. Pockets of Nearpod use all over the district, but I hear, like, just got an email from a principal this morning that says, like, hey, I hope we're thinking about a district license of Nearpod for the coming school year.
Right.
So that's something that is really top of mind for me now too, is those aside from the hardware, just getting all of our teachers and kids exposure to those really good resources like Nearpod, and not just having it be, oh, just this department has it, or just this school has it, but making it equitable, for everybody in the district. We did a little bit of that during this school year, in response to the pandemics, to some other resources that teachers were really saying we needed, they wanted and they needed. And so We implemented some of those this year, and I just want to keep, again, I want to keep that momentum going of giving our teachers just a good depth of resources that they have available to them, whether they're teaching kids in person or teaching kids fully online or a combination of both. Then they've all got it no matter what.
Sure.
And to your point, I'm so glad you're talking about getting those teachers involved in the process, because these educators this past several months, they have really been so adaptive, and they've been on the front lines, boots on ground, if you will. And
Yep.
so the products that they've been utilizing and doing that testing and saying, hey, this really works. I mean, we did the same thing here. I mean, we saw some of our Nearpod usage was pretty high, so that's one of the things that we're looking at with our ESSER funds to go ahead and
Yep.
get for every teacher. And also and I know you appreciate this as well, it makes it so much easier when we have standardized certain platforms from the instructional technology aspect, because now you can bake that into your curriculum. All your instructional specialists, the training, everybody's training on the same thing versus Nearpod and Pear Deck and ClassKick and everything else that's out there. When you have 4 or 5 different products, it's very difficult to have some sustainability throughout your system.
Yep, absolutely. That consistency is a good thing, and we're doing that again. We're trying to do that from a hardware side too with some things, but I also want to keep the focus too on the software side too, and the resources that we give teachers just to use that they can use every single day. That's for every department and every subject area, and just make it equally accessible for everybody.
So we've learned a whole lot of things. Of course, we learn a lot every day, but we've learned a whole lot after this pandemic. So what are some things that you think you can take from that and share with our listeners out there to keep them undisrupted going into this 21-22 school year?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's exciting. It's a really exciting time, despite all of that stress and the challenges and the ways that this year has taken a toll on kids and on parents and on teachers and on principals, every stakeholder in education. It's drained us at one time or another this year, but it's opened up for us, specifically, and I like to think it's probably in other areas too. And I know you guys have seen it. It's opened up some really, really exciting things that we were, probably had to implement a little faster than we really wanted to, and get it going faster than we normally would have. But a perfect example of that for us is our online elementary program. We essentially stood up an online elementary school, in time for the start of this school year. And did it work for every single kid? Nope, it didn't. We know that there's some kids that and I'm a parent of one of those kids, that just online learning just does not work for him. And so, but that's something that, because of this situation this year, it's here to stay. It's not going away. We are going to continue this into next year and have essentially a 19th elementary school that's going to be our online elementary school with dedicated teachers, a dedicated principal, that's just for that purpose, because we heard from both parents and teachers alike that it did work really, really well for them. And we've had teachers that have said, like, this is my jam. I found my niche here. I was skeptical, but I found my niche. If the district wants to keep this around, I'm game. Sign me up. And so, which is fantastic. Like, that's an amazing byproduct of everything that this year has brought. And the same goes for some of our families, that it's just worked out really, really well. And I think we need to keep that momentum going with things like that. And that's just one example of, I know there's examples all over the place of things like that have been a byproduct of this year. So it's exciting to me.
I think, and for all the listeners out there that are in our roles or in similar roles, you're probably feeling that same kind of feeling, like, let's keep this momentum going. I want to thank you, Kyle Pace. You can find him on Twitter at Kyle Pace, and also follow all the great work that he's doing at Lee Summit Schools up there in Kansas City. Thank you, Kyle, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
And I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us out there. Be sure to subscribe, give us a review. We might even give you a shout out at a future show. This has been the UnDisruptEd podcast, brought to you by Future Ready Schools. He's Pepe Le Adam, and you can follow him at AskAdam3.
And he's Carl, and you can follow him at Mr. Hooker. And remember, we are better together.
And we are better
Undisrupted.
This podcast is made possible by the generous support of Amazon Web Services.